The sun was a merciless hammer in the bleached white sky, beating down on the manicured perfection of the Oak Hollow Estates community pool. For Maria, it was a slice of heaven. A rare Tuesday off from the relentless pressure of the hospital. A day stolen just for her and her 8-year-old son, Leo. The air was thick with the clean, sharp scent of chlorine and freshly cut grass, a perfume of suburban tranquility she could usually only dream of. Leo was a dolphin, all sleek brown skin and flashing limbs, his laughter echoing off the turquoise water as he launched a foam football in a wobbly arc. Maria watched from a lounge chair in the shade, a half-read novel resting on her lap. She felt a profound, bone-deep sense of peace. Her sister Sarah had bought into this life, the 2-story colonial, the HOA meetings, the illusion of safety, built on a foundation of rules, and days like this made Maria understand why. It was a world away from their tiny apartment, where the sirens were for real emergencies and the only shared water was a fire hydrant on a sweltering day. "Mom, watch this!" Leo yelled, his voice pure joy. He scrambled onto the edge of the pool, puffed out his chest like a tiny bodybuilder, and executed a flawless cannonball. A plume of water erupted, glittering like 1,000 diamonds in the sunlight, before showering an empty row of chairs. Maria applauded. 10 out of 10, superstar! It was in this moment of idyllic calm that she first saw her. The woman moved with the stiff, purposeful gait of someone who owned not just her own space, but everyone else's as well. She was in her late 50s, dressed in a crisp white tennis skirt and a visor that sat on her lacquered blonde hair like a crown. Her face, a mask of expensive sunscreen and faint disapproval, scanned the pool area with the predatory focus of a hawk searching for field mice. Maria felt a prickle of unease, the instinct of someone who has spent her life navigating spaces where she wasn't entirely welcome. She instinctively sat up straighter. The woman, whose name was Karen Brewster, though Maria did not know it yet, ignored the other families. She ignored the teenagers splashing too close to the no roughhousing sign and the toddler wearing a leaky diaper at the water's edge. Her gaze snagged on Maria and Leo and held. She didn't approach. She circled, adjusting a perfectly aligned lounge chair here, picking up a non-existent piece of trash there, her orbit growing steadily smaller. Maria tried to ignore her. She smiled at Leo, trying to project a calm she no longer felt. The peace of the afternoon had been broken, replaced by a low, humming anxiety. Finally, the woman stopped at the foot of Maria's chair, blocking the sun. Her shadow fell over Maria like a verdict. "Excuse me," the woman said. Her voice was as thin and sharp as a razor blade. It wasn't a question. It was a demand. "I need to see your resident key card." Maria blinked, shielding her eyes. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a guest. My sister is Sarah Jenkins at 114 Willow Creek Drive." She offered a polite, conciliatory smile. It wasn't returned. The woman's lips thinned into a bloodless line. "I'm Karen Brewster. I'm the head of the pool committee. The rules are very clear. Section 4, paragraph B. All guests must be physically accompanied by the resident. Homeowner at all times." She said it with the grim satisfaction of a prosecutor reading a charge. She had a laminated copy of the rules on a lanyard around her neck, and she tapped it with a perfectly manicured finger for emphasis. "Right, I understand," Maria said, keeping her voice even. The last thing she wanted was a scene. "Sarah's at work. She's a lawyer. She told me the guest pass was on her keychain and to just come and enjoy the day. She said it would be fine." "Then Sarah," Karen Brewster said, infusing the name with a toxic sweetness, "was mistaken. If she is not here, you are trespassing." The word hung in the hot, still air. Trespassing. It was so ugly, so accusatory. Maria felt a flush of heat crawl up her neck that had nothing to do with the sun. Leo had paddled to the side of the pool, his laughter gone. He clung to the edge, his small face clouded with confusion, watching them. "I really don't think that's necessary," Maria said, her voice tighter now. "It's just my son and me. We're not bothering anyone. Look, I can call my sister right now. You can talk to her." She reached for her phone. "That won't be necessary," Karen snapped, her voice rising in volume. "The rules are not subject to a telephone vote. They are in place to protect the property values and the safety of our residents. I don't know you. Nobody here knows you. For all I know, you could have just found a lost key and decided to help yourself." A few heads were starting to turn. A man in his 60s lowered his newspaper. A young mother whispered something to her friend. Maria felt 100 invisible eyes on her, and the shame was a physical weight. "I'm not helping myself," Maria said, the words coming out clipped and angry. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm for Leo's sake. "I am the guest of a homeowner who pays her dues. My son is swimming quietly. There is no issue here." "There is an issue," Karen's voice cracked through the lazy afternoon buzz. "The issue is that you are violating the bylaws of this community. The issue is that you feel entitled to ignore them." She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, venomous whisper. "This isn't a public pool. We pay a great deal of money to keep it exclusive." The implication was clear. A poisoned dart aimed right at Maria's heart. "You don't belong here." It was the same message she'd received in 1,000 subtle ways her entire life, but she had never heard it spoken with such undisguised contempt. All the exhaustion from her 12-hour shifts, all the worry about bills, all the fierce protective love she had for her child, coalesced into a hard, defiant knot in her stomach. "There's nothing wrong with my son swimming in this pool," Maria said, her voice low and shaking with a fury she was struggling to contain. Karen's eyes flickered. From Maria to Leo, a dismissive, ugly little glance. "This is exactly the kind of element we're trying to avoid." She pulled out her phone, a large, garish thing in a rhinestone-covered case. "I am asking you one last time to pack up your things and leave the premises." "And I'm telling you, I'm not going anywhere," Maria said, standing up. She wasn't much taller than Karen, but she stood as if she were a giant. "You can call my sister, you can call the HOA president, you can call whoever you want, but you will not harass me and my child." "Harass you?" Karen let out a short theatrical laugh. "Oh, you have no idea." She held up her phone and pressed the record button, the red light a malevolent eye. "I am now recording this. Interaction for my own safety," she announced to the phone's camera, her voice suddenly taking on the dramatic cadence of a victim. "I am at the Oak Hollow Estates pool, and I have been accosted by a non-resident who is refusing to leave. She is becoming aggressive and hostile. I'm a 58-year-old woman, and I'm genuinely starting to fear for my well-being." Maria stared, speechless. The disconnect between reality and the performance Karen was giving was staggering. It was insane. "That is not what's happening," Maria exclaimed, her voice finally breaking. "You're the one who is harassing us." "Leo, honey, get out of the pool," she said, her attention snapping back to her son. His eyes were wide with fear, and it broke her heart. "Come on, sweetie, let's get your towel." As Leo began to hoist himself out of the water, he kicked his legs, sending a small wave splashing over the edge. A few drops of water landed on Karen Brewster's pristine white sneakers. It was, to Karen, the final act of aggression. A declaration of war. "Assault!" she shrieked, the sound so shrill that it made a baby on the other side of the pool start to cry. She jumped back as if she'd been hit with acid. "He splashed me! He did it on purpose! You are teaching your child to assault people!" "It was an accident," Maria cried, wrapping a towel around Leo's shivering shoulders. He was starting to cry now. Quiet, terrified sobs. "He's a child. He was just getting out of the pool." But Karen was no longer listening. She was deep in her performance, her audience the unseen emergency operator she was about to summon. Her thumb danced over her phone's screen. "That's it! I'm calling the police!" she hissed. "You've given me no choice." "Go ahead," Maria said, her own voice trembling. What else could she do? Surely the police would see this for what it was, a ridiculous, overblown power trip by a miserable woman. They would see a mother and her terrified child. They would sort it out. Karen pressed the call button, holding the phone to her ear. Her entire demeanor shifted. Her face crumpled, her voice hitched, and manufactured tears welled in her eyes. It was a transformation so complete it was terrifying. "Wevin, what is your emergency?" A calm, distant voice echoed from the phone's speaker. Karen took a ragged, theatrical breath. "Help me? Please," she sobbed into the phone. "I'm at the Oak Hollow pool. A woman, she's trespassing. She pushed me. Her son tried to pull me into the water." Maria's blood ran cold. The lie was so monstrous, so absolute. She couldn't even form a denial. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "They're trying to drown me," Karen screamed, her voice a symphony of fake terror. "She's threatening me. Please, you have to send someone. I'm afraid she's going to kill me. Send the police, now!" She disconnected the call, her face instantly reverting from terrified, victim to smug victor. A venomous smile played on her lips. She had done it. She had pushed the button, activated the system, and turned her petty grievance into a weapon. Maria stood frozen. The wail of the siren sliced through the thick, humid air, growing from a distant cry to an immediate, oppressive scream. It was a sound that paralyzed. Every resident at the Oak Hollow Estates pool was now a statue, their lazy afternoon chatter silenced, their faces a mixture of morbid curiosity and alarm. For Maria, the sound was a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. She held Leo tighter, his small body trembling against hers, his face buried in her side. He was trying to make himself invisible. Maria wished she could do the same. A police cruiser, stark black and white against the lush green lawns, nosed its way down the winding service path and stopped abruptly by the gate. The flashing red and blue lights painted the scene in frantic, silent strokes of color, reflecting off the pool's surface and the panicked eyes of the onlookers. Two officers emerged. One was older, with a sun-weathered face and a weary slump to his shoulders that suggested he'd seen this all before. His name tag read Miller. The other was younger, taller, with a sharp, disciplined posture. His tag read Davis. Before they had even fully closed their car doors, Karen Brewster was in motion. Her performance of a frail victim was instantaneous and flawless. She stumbled toward them, a hand pressed dramatically to her chest, her face a mask of carefully constructed terror. "Oh, thank God you're here, officers," she cried, her voice trembling with manufactured hysteria. "That woman, she attacked me. I asked her to leave. She's not a resident, and she went crazy. She pushed me, and her son, he tried to pull me into the water." Officer Miller's gaze swept over the scene, landing on Maria and her crying child. His expression was flat, unreadable. He'd responded to 1,000 calls that started this way, a domestic brushfire in a tinderbox of suburban entitlement. He sighed, a barely audible puff of air. "Okay, ma'am, slow down. Let's start from the beginning. What's your name?" As Miller began the slow, methodical process of taking Karen's statement, Officer Davis walked toward Maria. His steps were measured, his presence imposing. He stopped a few feet away, creating a zone of authority around them. "Ma'am, I need you to stay right here," he said. His voice was calm, but it was not a request. He looked down at Leo, and for a fleeting moment, his expression softened. "Is the boy okay?" Maria could only nod, her throat too tight to speak. She felt as though she were moving through water, every action slow and difficult. She was keenly aware of the other residents, their stares like tiny pinpricks on her skin. They were witnesses. They saw everything. Surely they would tell the truth. "Can you tell me what happened?" Davis asked, his notebook out. Maria took a shaky breath, trying to marshal her thoughts to push past the roaring panic in her ears. "She's lying," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "None of that is true. I'm a guest here. My sister owns a home here. This woman, Karen, she confronted me because my sister wasn't with me. She called me a trespasser. She started yelling." "Did you put your hands on her?" Davis asked, his pen poised. "No, never." The denial shot out of her, raw and desperate. "I would never do that. She was harassing me, recording me with her phone. My son was getting out of the pool, and he accidentally splashed her sneaker, and she started screaming that he was assaulting her. She's the one who was aggressive." Davis's eyes flickered toward Leo, who was still hiding his face. An 8-year-old boy attempting to drown a grown woman. The physics of it were absurd. Still, he kept his face neutral. "I understand. What's your name, ma'am?" "Maria Reyes. My son is Leo." "And you have identification?" Maria's heart sank. Her wallet, with her driver's license, was in her sister's car, parked back at the house. All she had with her was her phone and a towel. It's at my sister's house, 114 Willow Creek Drive. We walked over. I can call her. Her name is Sarah Jenkins. She's a lawyer." She added the last part, hoping it might carry some weight, some signal that she wasn't just some random person to be dismissed. Across the pool deck, Karen was reaching the crescendo of her story. "And I have a pre-existing neck condition. From a car accident 5 years ago," she wailed, touching her throat tenderly. "When she shoved me, I felt a sharp pain. I think I need to go to the hospital. I want to press charges. I want her arrested for assault." The word arrested ricocheted around the pool. Maria felt Leo flinch. She had to stay strong for him, but the ground was crumbling beneath her feet. Officer Miller ambled over, his expression unchanged. "The complainant has a video," he said to Davis, gesturing toward Karen. "Of course she does," Davis murmured under his breath, then spoke louder. "Ma'am, Ms. Brewster is willing to show us a video she recorded of the incident. Are you aware of this recording?" "Yes," Maria said, a flicker of hope igniting. "Yes, please, watch it. It will show you. It shows her threatening me. It shows me asking her to stop." Karen, smug and triumphant, unlocked her phone and handed it to Officer Miller. "You'll see," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You'll see how she threatened me. It's all right there." Miller and Davis stood side by side watching the small screen. The tinny audio from the phone was distorted but audible. Maria's own voice, tight with anger. "You will not harass me and my child." Then Karen's voice, narrating her fake victimhood. The video was shaky, angled up at Maria, making her seem larger, more menacing. Then a blur of motion and the sound of a splash. The video ended abruptly. Maria's hope died. The video didn't show the whole story. It was a weapon, edited by reality, filmed from a perspective of pure malice. It didn't show Karen's circling, her condescending tone, her whispered insults. It only showed Maria's reaction. Miller handed the phone back to Karen. "The video shows a verbal altercation," he stated flatly. "It doesn't show an assault." "But you heard her! You saw how aggressive she was!" Karen sputtered, her confidence wavering for the first time. "And the water! He splashed me on her command!" "We didn't see a push, Karen," Miller said, using her first name with a familiarity that suggested this wasn't their first encounter. "And a splash isn't assault." Just as a wave of relief washed over Maria, Miller turned his gaze on her. "But you are admittedly not a resident. And you are here without the resident present, which is a violation of their rules. And you don't have any identification on you." His voice was cold, accusatory. The logic was perverse. She was being repositioned as the one in the wrong. "I'm trying to call my sister," Maria said, fumbling with her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. "She can verify everything." "Officer, what are you waiting for?" Karen demanded. "She's trespassing. At the very least, you need to remove her from the property." "Ma'am, we're handling it," Davis said firmly. He looked around at the silent, watching faces of the other pool patrons. "Did anyone else witness this incident? Did anyone see this woman?" He pointed his pen at Maria. "Physically assault this woman?" Silence. The man with the newspaper suddenly found his reading material fascinating. The young mother who had been watching intently now busied herself, packing a bag, refusing to make eye contact. No one spoke. Not a single person. They had all seen it, seen Karen's provocation, her escalation. But the cost of getting involved, of contradicting a known community firebrand, of inserting themselves into a police matter, was too high. It was easier to look away. Maria's heart broke, not just from the injustice, but from the crushing weight of their collective cowardice. She was alone. Just then, her call connected. "Sarah!" She cried into the phone, her voice cracking with relief. "Sarah, you have to get here. I'm at the pool. A woman called the cops on me." A blur of motion at the gate. A woman in a charcoal gray business suit, heels sinking slightly into the soft grass, was power walking toward them, her phone pressed to her ear. It was Sarah. Her face was a storm cloud of controlled fury. "I'm already here," Sarah said, both into her phone and across the 20 yards that separated them. She snapped her phone shut and strode into the center of the drama, her presence immediately altering the power dynamic. "I am Sarah Jenkins," she announced, her voice the sharp, confident instrument of a courtroom litigator. "This is my sister Maria Reyes and my nephew Leo. They are my personal guests, and they have every right to be on this property. Now, would someone like to explain to me why my family is being interrogated by the police?" She fixed her glare on Karen, who visibly recoiled. "Oh, hello, Karen. Starting your weekend early, I see." "Sarah, your sister assaulted me," Karen stammered. "My sister, a pediatric nurse who works 60-hour weeks saving lives, assaulted you over a pool rule?" "That's the story you're going with?" Sarah shot back without missing a beat. She turned to the officers. "Officers, my name is Sarah Jenkins. I'm an attorney. I own the property at 114 Willow Creek. Has my sister been charged with a crime?" Miller, looking annoyed at the complication, shook his head. "No, ma'am. We are investigating a complaint." "A complaint of what, exactly? Trespassing?" "I'm standing right here, the homeowner, telling you she is my invited guest, so there's no trespassing. Is it assault? Where are the injuries? Where is the evidence? Where are the corroborating witnesses?" She swept her arm around the pool, her gaze daring anyone to speak up now. The silence was even more profound than before. "The only crime I see here," Sarah continued, her voice dangerously low, "is harassment, and potentially filing a false police report, which I believe is a misday." The walk away from the pool was the longest of Maria's life. It was a silent parade of shame, each step a testament to her defeat. Sarah walked on one side, a pillar of rigid, simmering fury. Leo clung to Maria's other side, his small hand, clutching hers, his face still blotchy and tear-streaked. He was quiet now, a terrifyingly profound silence that felt worse than his sobs. The sounds of the pool slowly resumed behind them, a splash, a laugh, the tinny music from a portable speaker, as the residents of Oak Hollow Estates eagerly stitched their perfect afternoon back together, leaving Maria and her family on the outside of the seam. The world had moved on in less than a minute. They didn't speak as they walked the manicured sidewalks back to Sarah's house. The air, once filled with the scent of chlorine and possibility, now felt suffocating. Inside the cool, marble-floored entryway of the house, the silence was even louder. It was a beautiful home, a fortress of success and security, but it felt tainted now, a part of the very system that had just chewed Maria up and spat her out. Leo finally let go of her hand and stood in the middle of the living room, looking small and lost against the oversized cream-colored sofa. "Mommy?" he asked, his voice a tiny, fragile thing. "Are the police coming to our house now? Are you going to jail?" The question struck Maria like a physical blow. She knelt in front of him, her heart shattering. She pulled him into a fierce hug, burying her face in his damp hair. "No, baby. Oh my God, no," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "Mommy is not going to jail. We did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. That woman, she was just a mean person, a bully. It has nothing to do with you." But even as she said the words, they tasted like lies. It had everything to do with them. He had seen his mother humiliated, rendered powerless. He had been made to feel like a criminal for the simple act of being a child. The damage was done, a fresh crack in his innocent worldview. Sarah had been pacing the kitchen, her heels clicking an angry staccato on the slate tiles. "A bully?" she seethed, whirling around. "Maria, she's not a bully. She's a predator. She filed a false police report. She committed perjury right there on the pool deck. She accused an 8-year-old child of trying to drown her. This isn't something we just walk away from." "And do what, Sarah?" Maria shot back, her voice rising with a week's worth of exhaustion and a lifetime of frustration. She gently steered Leo toward the den where a video game console was waiting. "Play this, sweetie. I need to talk to Aunt Sarah for a minute." As soon as he was out of earshot, she turned back to her sister, her voice a low, defeated whisper. "What are we supposed to do? Sue her? For what? Being a horrible person? They already won. They kicked me out. They handed me a piece of paper that says I'm a criminal if I ever go back. The cops, the so-called witnesses, everyone there sided with her. It's her word against mine, and her word owns property in this zip code." "That's not true," Sarah insisted, her lawyer brain already dissecting the situation into motions and counterclaims. "Her power comes from the fact that no one ever pushes back. People like Karen Brewster build their little fiefdoms on the cowardice of others. We have options. We can file a complaint against the officers for their handling of the situation. We can file a formal grievance with the HOA. We can go home," Maria interrupted, her voice flat. "That's what we can do. I can pack up our stuff, and you can drive us back to our apartment where the rules are simple. Lock your door and mind your business." "I don't want to fight this, Sarah. I just want to forget it happened." The fight was gone from her. All she felt was a bone-deep weariness and the desperate maternal need to shield her son from any more ugliness. Sarah looked at her expression a mixture of frustration and empathy. "I get it, Maria. I do. You're tired. But they can't do this. They can't treat people this way and face no consequences." Before Maria could respond, Sarah's phone buzzed on the granite countertop. Then it buzzed again, and again. She picked it up, her brow furrowing as she read the screen. "What is it?" Maria asked. Sarah's face hardened. "It's the Oak Hollow online community forum. Someone's already posted about it." She turned the phone around. The post was from Karen Brewster. "Urgent pool alert. Just a warning to all residents. There was a very serious and frightening incident at the pool today. An aggressive non-resident forced her way into our private facility and became violent when confronted. Her unruly child was also involved. Thankfully, I was able to call for help and the police responded swiftly. The trespasser has been formally removed and warned not to return. A huge thank you to the OHPF for their professionalism. Please be vigilant and report any suspicious individuals. We have to protect our community and our children." The words were a masterclass in coded bigotry and self-victimization. Aggressive, violent, unruly, trespasser, suspicious individuals. Maria felt the blood drain from her face. It was one thing to be humiliated in person. It was another to be slandered in writing, to have this grotesque caricature of her and her son broadcast to the entire community. But the comments below the post were what truly stole her breath. Carol T. Thank you for your bravery, Karen. So scary what's happening these days. We have to be strong. Bob M. Is this the same woman I saw last week by the tennis courts? Didn't look like she belonged. Good for you for taking action. Linda P. My kids were there. They were terrified. We need better security at the gate. Lie after lie, built on the foundation of Karen's original lie. A few comments asked for more details, but they were quickly shouted down by Karen's defenders. One anonymous user posted, "There are two sides to every story," but the comment was deleted within minutes. This was no longer just an incident. It was a narrative, a story being told about her, a story that painted her as a monster and her son as a menace. And in this story, Karen Brewster was the hero. The weariness Maria had felt moments before evaporated, replaced by a surge of pure, cold rage. This was not something she could go home and forget. This poison would linger. It would attach itself to her sister, who had to live here. It would forever color the memory of this day for her son. They weren't just attacking her anymore. They were trying to erase her, to overwrite her truth with their fiction. She looked at Sarah, her eyes blazing. "Okay," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "What are our options?" A slow, determined smile spread across Sarah's face. She had been waiting for this. "Now you're talking," she said, switching into full legal warrior mode. "First, we document everything. I'm screenshotting this entire thread before she has a chance to delete it. This isn't just a community forum post anymore. This is libel. She has publicly defamed you with information she knows to be false." Her fingers flew across her phone. Then she moved to her laptop in the sleek, minimalist home office off the kitchen. "Next, evidence. The police report. It's public record. I'll request a copy tomorrow morning. It will state explicitly that their investigation found no evidence of an assault. That directly contradicts her claim that you were violent." "And the video?" Maria asked, her mind racing. "Her video didn't show a push." "Exactly. It's evidence for us," Sarah said, typing furiously. "But there's something better, something she can't control." Sarah stopped typing and looked up at Maria, a glint in her eye. At the HOA board meeting last fall, they approved a $30,000 upgrade to the community security system. High-definition cameras with cloud storage. There are two, covering the pool area. One on the clubhouse, one on the light pole by the gate. Hope, sharp and painful, pierced through Maria's anger. "A camera? So it's all on tape? The whole thing?" "The whole damn thing," Sarah confirmed. "From the moment she started circling you like a shark to the moment the cops showed up. It's the ultimate impartial witness. It will show everything." She began composing a new email, her tone shifting from activist sister to formal attorney. "I am a homeowner in good standing. I have the right to request access to common area records, and that includes security footage, especially when it pertains to an incident involving my family and the police." She typed for several minutes, the sharp clicks of the keyboard the only sound in the room. She cited HOA bylaws, state property codes, and legal precedents. The email was a piece of surgical steel, polite but unyielding, and it left no room for refusal. She sent it to the official email address for the 5-member HOA board, CCing their management company. "Now we wait," Sarah said, leaning back in her chair. The wait was excruciating. An hour passed, then 2. Maria tried to play with Leo, but her focus was shot. Every buzz of Sarah's phone made her jump. Finally, at 6:17 p.m., a new email arrived. It was from Howard Klein, the HOA board president. The subject line read, Formal request for security footage. Sarah opened it and read it aloud. "Dear Ms. Jenkins, the board is in receipt of your request dated September 1st. Please be advised that access to security footage is restricted and requires a formal review to protect the privacy of our residents. Furthermore, as this footage pertains to an active police matter, we are unable to release it at this time without a subpoena or a direct order from law enforcement. The board takes the safety and privacy of our community very seriously. Sincerely, Howard Klein, HOA President. He's stonewalling, Maria said, the hope she'd felt shriveling. Of course he is. He's probably friends with... The file downloaded with agonizing slowness, a thin blue line crawling across the screen, each megabyte a lifetime. Maria and Sarah sat in the sterile glow of the laptop, the silence in the home office thick with anticipation. Leo was asleep, upstairs, a small mercy in a day that had offered none. When the download finally completed, Sarah took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the trackpad. "Ready?" she asked. Maria nodded, her stomach a tight knot of dread and desperate hope. Sarah clicked play. The screen filled with a wide, high-definition and chillingly silent view of the Oak Hollow Estates pool. The camera's vantage point was from the clubhouse roof, a god's-eye view that captured everything. The timestamp in the corner read 2:14 p.m. They watched the first few minutes in silence. There they were, Maria, reading her book. Leo, a joyful blur of motion in the turquoise water. It was the last moment of peace, preserved forever in cold, digital clarity. Then, at 2:19 p.m., Karen Brewster entered the frame. The video was damning. It was objective. It stripped away all of Karen's theatricality and left only the ugly, unvarnished truth. They watched her deliberate, predatory circling. They saw her confront Maria, her body language stiff and aggressive. They saw Maria's initial polite smile, followed by her growing disbelief and anger. There was no audio, but the visual story was irrefutable. The key moments were brutally clear. At 2:25 p.m., they saw Karen pull out her phone and aim it at Maria like a weapon. At 2:27 p.m., they saw Leo hoist himself from the pool, the accidental splash of water a tiny, insignificant event. And then they saw Karen's reaction. She didn't. Jump back in fear. She took a deliberate step back, her hands flying to her chest in a pantomime of shock long after the water had landed. There was no push. There was no attack. There was only a calculated, malicious performance. Maria felt a hot tear trace a path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness, but of pure, painful vindication. "She planned it," she whispered. "Look at her. She was performing the whole time." Sarah didn't answer. She was in lawyer mode, pausing the video, making notes on a legal pad. 2:25. Subject initiates recording, evidence of premeditation. 2:27. Subject feigns assault in response to incidental water splash. 2:34. Subject provides false testimony to Officer Miller. She drew a thick line under the words. "We've got her. We've got all of them." When the video ended, a profound quiet settled over the room. The truth, in all its pristine, unedited glory, was sitting on Sarah's laptop. "Post it," Maria said, her voice hard as steel. "Post it on that community page. Let every single one of those people who called me a monster see what their hero really is." Sarah shook her head, her eyes still fixed on the screen. "No, that's what she would do. That's a street fight. We're not fighting in the street anymore. We're taking this to the boardroom." She turned to Maria, her expression intense. "If we just post this, they'll claim it's doctored. They'll delete it and ban me. Karen will play the victim again, crying that she's being targeted by hackers. We can't just expose the liar. We have to dismantle the system that protects her." Her target was clear. Howard Klein, the HOA president. He lied to us in writing. He said he couldn't release the footage because of an active police matter. We have a police report that says the case is closed. We have the footage he claimed he couldn't release. He didn't just protect Karen. He made himself an accessory to her libel. He's the weak point. We press him, and the whole rotten structure collapses. The strategy was brilliant and terrifying. It was one thing to fight a neighborhood bully. It was another to take on the entire power structure of her world. Sarah began to type, her fingers flying across the keyboard with renewed purpose. The email she composed was a masterpiece of controlled aggression. To Howard Klein, HOA Board of Directors, from Sarah Jenkins. Subject, urgent. Correction of false information and defamatory statements. Dear Mr. Klein and members of the board, following your denial of my formal request for security footage, it has come to my attention that the board may not have had access to all the relevant information regarding the incident at the community pool on September 1st. To remedy this, I have attached the complete, unedited security footage from Pool, Camera 1 for your review. As you will clearly see, the video evidence directly refutes the claims of assault made by resident Karen Brewster and contradicts the defamatory narrative she has been circulating on the official community forum. It also proves that your justification for withholding this footage, an active police matter, was baseless. I trust that upon reviewing this unambiguous evidence, the board will take immediate and decisive corrective action. We expect nothing less than a full public retraction of Ms. Brewster's statements on the community forum, a formal written apology to my sister Maria Reyes for the harassment and defamation she has endured, and the immediate removal of Ms. Brewster. From her position as head of the pool committee, we require a formal response outlining your intended actions within 24 hours. Failure to adequately resolve this matter will force us to pursue all available legal remedies against both Ms. Brewster and the HOA board for its complicity. Sincerely, Sarah Jenkins, Esca. You attached the video? Maria asked, her voice a whisper. Every last second of it, Sarah said grimly, and hit send. The email shot into the ether, a digital declaration of war. The next 24 hours were the most agonizing of Maria's life. They waited. Sarah's phone sat on the kitchen island, a silent grenade. Every notification, every buzz, sent a jolt of anxiety through them. The reply came at 4:30 p.m. the next day, just half an hour before Sarah's deadline expired. It was from Howard Klein. Sarah opened it, her face grim. She read it aloud, her voice dripping with contempt. Ms. Jenkins, the board is in receipt of your email and the attached file. Our immediate priority is to address a serious and illegal data breach of the community's private security system. The unauthorized acquisition and distribution of this footage is a criminal offense that puts every resident's privacy at risk. We have engaged legal counsel and are launching a full investigation into this matter. Until this critical security issue is resolved, we are unable to comment on the content of the illegally obtained file or any other related matters. Maria felt the air leave her lungs. It was a perfect counter-move. They had been outmaneuvered. They're going to come. After us, she said, her voice trembling. They're trying to press charges against us for having the proof. Sarah read the email again, and then a slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. No, she said. They're not coming after us. They're terrified. This isn't a power move, Maria. This is a Hail Mary pass from a team that's losing the game. They're trying to change the subject from Karen's lies to a phantom hacker. They think they can scare us into silence. It's working, Maria whispered. No, it's not, Sarah said, her eyes flashing. Because they made a mistake. They think this is a private little war they can control. It's time they learned otherwise. She picked up her phone, but she wasn't checking her email. She scrolled through her contacts and found a name. Ben Carter. Who is Ben Carter? Maria asked. He's an investigative reporter for the Channel 8 News On Your Side team, Sarah explained. I fed him a story a few years ago about a slumlord in the city. He's sharp, he hates bullies, and he loves stories about powerful people abusing their positions. She made the call. For 20 minutes, she laid out the entire story for the reporter, her voice a calm, compelling narrative of injustice. She told him everything. The confrontation at the pool, the fabricated 911 call, the public shaming, the formal trespass order, Karen's libelous post, the HOA's cover-up, and their latest threat. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Can you prove it?" Ben Carter asked. "I can do better than that," Sarah said. "I can send you the receipts." Within the hour, she had forwarded him the entire package, a copy of the police report, screenshots of the forum post, her email chain with Howard Klein, and the password-protected link to the video file. The rest of the evening passed in a tense quiet. The war was being fought on a new front now, by forces they couldn't control. Just after 9 p.m., Sarah's phone rang. It was Ben Carter. "Okay, I'm in," he said, his voice crackling with energy. "This is a fantastic story. I made some calls." Howard Klein's official comment is, "The HOA does not comment on matters of resident security." Hung up on me. "Karen Brewster threatened to sue me and the station for harassment. Hung up on me. That, in my business, is what we call a confirmation." "So what happens now?" Sarah asked. "I'm running the story," Ben said. "Lead segment on the 10 o'clock news tomorrow night. Paradise Lost, exclusive community HOA accused of harassment and cover-up." It's going to be a bombshell. The news should have felt like a victory, but to Maria, it felt like an escalation beyond her wildest fears. This wasn't just about the community anymore. This was going on television. The bombshell landed sooner than they expected. 10 minutes later, Sarah's phone rang again. The caller ID was a number she recognized, one she had programmed into her phone years ago for HOA business. It was Howard Klein. She looked at Maria, who nodded. Sarah answered and put the phone on speaker. A voice, strained and stripped of all its former arrogance, came through the speaker. It was the voice of a man, in a full-blown panic. "Sarah." "Hello?" "It's Howard Klein," he said, his voice slick with a desperate "a." The morning of the meeting, the sky was a bruised and swollen gray, threatening a storm that matched the tempest in Maria's soul. She stood in Sarah's kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee she hadn't touched, her stomach churning with a nauseous blend of fear and resolve. This felt bigger than a meeting. It felt like a trial, and she was walking into the heart of enemy territory. "You don't have to say a word if you don't want to," Sarah said, adjusting the lapels on her sharp, navy blue blazer. She looked less like a sister and more like a high-powered attorney ready for oral arguments before the Supreme Court. "I'll do the talking. You just have to be there. Your presence is the most powerful statement we can make." "I want to say something," Maria said, her voice quiet but firm. "I want to look her in the eye." She thought of Leo, of the way he'd been so quiet the last 2 days, the laughter gone from his eyes. This was for him. They walked to the clubhouse. Together, a united front of two. The room was exactly as Maria had imagined, sterile, soulless, and intimidating. A long, polished mahogany table reflected the grim fluorescent lights from above. Howard Klein sat at the head of the table, his face pale and haggard. 2 other board members, a man and a woman Maria didn't recognize, sat stiffly beside him, looking like they would rather be anywhere else on earth. And at the far end of the table, there was Karen Brewster. She was dressed in an immaculate cream-colored pantsuit, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed. She projected an air of defiant indignation, but Maria could see the cracks in the facade. There was a tightness around her eyes, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in her hand as she adjusted her water glass. She was cornered. Howard cleared his throat, the sound unnaturally loud in the tense silence. "Thank you for coming, Sarah." "Maria," he began, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "I think we can all agree that there's been a significant misunderstanding. Our goal here is to find a way to move forward that is amenable to everyone." Sarah placed her leather satchel on the table with a soft thud. She didn't sit. Neither did Maria. They stood, commanding the room. "Let's be clear, Howard," Sarah said, her voice cutting through his platitudes like glass. "This was not a misunderstanding. This was a malicious, targeted attack on my family, followed by a coordinated effort by this board to conceal the truth and intimidate the victims. We are not here to find an amenable path forward. We are here to present you with the terms of your surrender." From her satchel, she produced a tablet. Without another word, she pressed play. She set the tablet in the center of the table, angled for everyone to see. The silent, high-definition footage of the pool began to roll. No one spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioning. Sarah let the video play, forcing them to watch every damning second. They watched Karen's approach, her aggressive posture, her smug satisfaction as she pulled out her phone. When the moment of the splash came, Sarah paused the video. On the screen, Karen was frozen mid-performance, her hands flying to her chest. "This," Sarah said, her voice dangerously calm, "is the moment Karen Brewster alleged a violent assault occurred. An assault so severe she claimed to the police that an 8-year-old boy was attempting to drown her. As you can see, not a single person laid a hand on her. She fabricated a criminal complaint. She lied to law enforcement. She libeled my sister on a public forum. And you," she fixed her eyes on Howard, "enabled it. You lied in a legal document to protect her." Karen finally broke. "That's not true. You're twisting it. The video doesn't have sound. You can't hear how aggressive she was being. I felt threatened. I was protecting our community." "The only threat in this video, Karen, is you," Maria said, her voice ringing with a strength she didn't know she possessed. She looked directly into Karen's eyes, refusing to back down. "You didn't see a rule breaker. You saw someone you decided didn't belong, and you tried to destroy her. You terrorized my child. You humiliated me. You did it because you thought you could, because you thought I was powerless." Howard could see the situation spiraling. This wasn't the controlled, private mediation he had hoped for. This was an execution. He turned to Karen, his expression pleading. "Karen, perhaps you overreacted. In the heat of the moment." It was the betrayal Karen had not anticipated. In her world, her allies were supposed to fall in line, to protect the established order. Seeing Howard, her pawn and protector, turn against her was the final blow. "Overreacted?" she shrieked, her voice cracking, the mask of composure shattering into 1,000 pieces. "I was doing my job, the job you all elected me to do, keeping our property values up, keeping the undesirables out, and this is the thanks I get? You spineless, pathetic coward!" She was on her feet now, pointing, a trembling finger at Howard. "You were all for it until you got scared of a little bad press." The other board members visibly shrank in their chairs. In that moment, Karen's real, ugly meltdown had begun. It wasn't the fake, theatrical performance from the pool. It was the raw, sputtering rage of a tyrant whose throne had just been kicked out from under her. She had just confessed, confirming her motive in front of the entire board. Sarah waited for the tirade to subside, then calmly slid a single sheet of paper across the table to Howard. "Those are our terms," she said. Howard picked up the paper, his hands shaking. He read the list aloud, his voice barely a whisper. 1. A formal, public apology from the HOA board to be posted on the community forum. 2. A personal, written apology from Karen Brewster to Maria and Leo Reyes. 3. Karen Brewster is to be permanently removed from all committee and board positions, effective immediately. 4. The HOA is to formally request the expungement of the criminal. Trespass warning. 5. A formal amendment to the HOA guest policy. He finished reading and looked up, his face ashen. He knew he had no choice. The alternative was a lawsuit they would lose and a news story that would irrevocably stain the reputation of their precious community, cratering the property values Karen claimed to be protecting. He looked at his fellow board members, who both gave curt, terrified nods. He then looked at Karen, who was staring at him with pure, venomous hatred. "The board agrees to all terms," Howard said, his voice hollow. The victory was so absolute, so total, that Maria felt a dizzying sense of vertigo. 1 week later, Maria sat on a park bench, the late afternoon sun warm on her face. In her hand, she held 2 letters. The first was from the Oak Hollow Police Department, a crisp, official document confirming that the trespass warning against her had been rescinded and all records of the incident expunged from her name. It was a legal erasure of her humiliation. The second was a short, stiff letter on expensive stationery. "Dear Ms. Reyes, I wish to express my sincere regret for the misunderstanding that occurred at the pool. I hope you and your son will accept my apology. Sincerely, Karen Brewster." The words were meaningless, hollow, almost certainly written by a lawyer. But the letter itself was a trophy. It was the written confession of her defeat. On her phone, she scrolled through the Oak Hollow Community Forum. The board's public. Apology was the top post. It was a carefully worded piece of corporate speak, but it did the job. It exonerated her. The comments section was a battlefield. Karen's few remaining allies cried foul, but they were drowned out by a tidal wave of residents who, now feeling safe, were sharing their own stories of Karen's reign of terror. The silent majority had finally found its voice. Howard Klein had announced his resignation as board president. The old guard had fallen. A small body slammed into her side, and Maria looked up from her phone. Leo, his face flushed and his eyes sparkling with pure, uncomplicated joy, was holding out a dandelion. "Make a wish, Mommy," he said, his smile as bright as the sun. Maria looked at her son, truly looked at him. The fear was gone from his eyes. The quiet, wounded watchfulness had been replaced by the carefree bliss of childhood. He was whole again. She took the dandelion, closed her eyes, and thought about the maelstrom of the past week. She had faced down ugliness and injustice, not with violence or hatred, but with truth and tenacity. She had learned she was stronger than she ever imagined. Justice, she realized, wasn't just about punishing the guilty. It was about healing the innocent. It was about restoring the world for people like Leo. "Mom," Leo said, tugging on her arm, his voice full of excitement. "Can we go swimming this weekend? At the big city pool, the one with the diving board?" Maria looked at his hopeful face and felt a profound, unshakable peace settle deep in her bones. It wasn't the fragile, borrowed peace of Oak Hollow. It was hers. She had fought for it. She had earned it. She smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Yes, baby," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We can go anywhere we want." She held the dandelion up, took a deep breath, and blew. 100 tiny seeds took flight, scattering on the wind, each one a silent promise of a future where they belonged everywhere. Tools.